The problem is that she seems kind of hell-bent on reunifying Taiwan with China, which I've always found kind of odd, because how can you reunify something with China if it never belonged to China in the first place? If China continues to insist that Taiwan belongs to them, and China continues to behave in a reckless and dangerous way, then I don't think peace with China is currently an option. So, is peace an option for Taiwan when dealing with China?
Chinese state media has been broadcasting graphics such as these, simulating precision strikes on Taiwan in the event of a Chinese invasion.
Of course, I think it's safe to assume that the vast majority of sane people in both China and Taiwan do not actually want war. This majority excludes people like Putin and Xi, and in Putin's case, seem to have no problem with killing large numbers of innocent people. Recently, a small group of people in Taiwan have formed the Anti-War Declaration Working Group. This group essentially is trying to lobby the government to focus more resources on the livelihoods and social welfare of people in Taiwan, rather than the military and national defense of Taiwan. At first glance, this does seem like a noble cause. However, in reality, it's a little bit naive. Unfortunately, China is a belligerent neighbor, and not only do they try to undermine Taiwan as often as possible, as we have just seen with Honduras, but they often threaten Taiwan and have been known to shoot missiles over and around Taiwan. The overall sentiment in Taiwan when it comes to war is as follows. The average person in Taiwan does not want war, but the average person in Taiwan understands that if China attacked Taiwan, they would need to defend Taiwan. So, Taiwan is not looking for a fight and would rather avoid it, but if war comes to Taiwan, then most Taiwanese would not back down. They would most likely stay and defend Taiwan. Is peace currently an option for Taiwan in regards to dealing with China? The problem is that she seems kind of hell-bent on reunifying Taiwan with China, which I've always found kind of odd, because how can you reunify something with China if it never belonged to China in the first place?
解决台湾问题是中国人自己的事，要由中国人来决定。
If China continues to insist that Taiwan belongs to them, and China continues to behave in a reckless and dangerous way, then I don't think peace with China is currently an option. I really wish it were, but based on China's current leadership and the way that China currently behaves and deals with Taiwan on the international stage, it looks like peace is not really going to be the ultimate outcome. The truth is that China is not really giving Taiwan much of a choice. They like to make it seem like they are giving Taiwan a choice, or that they are trying to take Taiwan peacefully and via other non-lethal methods. But the reality is that this is mostly an illusion, and they are not offering any real choice. Mostly, it's just a facade. As far as I can tell, there are only around 2 or maybe 3 possible sort of options or outcomes that could result in peace between Taiwan and China. The first option would be to maintain the status quo. This is where China basically just leaves Taiwan alone and respects the wishes of the people in Taiwan and lets things continue as they currently are, and they basically don't try to change anything in regards to the relationship and the legalities of the relationship between Taiwan and China. Taiwan and China continue to trade with each other and peacefully coexist. Based on my observations, this is what the vast majority of people in Taiwan would like. Of course, there are better options available, but realistically, I think that this is the best most people in Taiwan could hope for. The only reason the situation is so tense, as many major news outlets often describe it, is because China is belligerent, and China is the only one making the situation tense. If the status quo could be maintained, and China could stop threatening Taiwan and any other country that tries to do business with them, then I'm sure that most people in Taiwan and China would be more than happy to continue doing trade and business with each other. However, as things currently are in China under Xi Jinping, I find this to be unlikely. It might continue for the next couple of years, but if we look at the sort of trajectory of the kind of like direction that China is going in regards to dealing with Taiwan, it seems to be like they're putting a lot of pressure on Taiwan and many other countries in the international community, and they're almost like pushing Taiwan into a corner to try and force them to reunify. And when that doesn't happen, then I think it is possible that they might actually use force. The other option might be that the CCP faces reality and admits that Taiwan is in fact an independent country, and that's that, and they respect the people in Taiwan, and they respect the wishes and the choice of the people in Taiwan, and they let Taiwan actually be an independent country, which for all intents and purposes, Taiwan already is. If this were to happen, not only would there be peace between Taiwan and China, but both Taiwan and China could benefit greatly from this, because that would create a lot of stability in the region. And as you know, the Taiwan Strait is an international shipping route, and when there's peace and stability between Taiwan and China, a lot of countries will prosper. Not only Taiwan and China, a lot of countries will prosper, a lot of companies will prosper, a lot of people will also become a lot wealthier. And I think overall, this would be the best option for everyone, as a lot of people could benefit in many different ways, but I think economically and financially especially. However, realistically, we need to ask ourselves, what are the actual chances of something like this happening in the near future? And sadly, I think the chances of something like this happening are actually quite low. Essentially, anything China does in regards to Taiwan is aimed at undermining Taiwan in some shape or form. It may look like they are trying to help or trying to do something nice for Taiwan, but essentially their end game is to take Taiwan by any means necessary. And please, don't take my word for it, take Xi Jinping's word for it.
放弃使用武力，保留采取一切必要措施的选项。
However, if China tries to invade Taiwan or behaves in a way which threatens Taiwan's national security, which is exactly what they are doing right now, then unfortunately, peace is not an option. The best solution is for Taiwan to continue to try and de-escalate the tension between China and Taiwan, continue to use soft power on the international stage, but still be prepared. The fact of the matter is that China often behaves in a belligerent way towards Taiwan. The vast majority of people in Taiwan are peace-loving people, and they don't want war. Taiwan is not an aggressive country, but there are limits. Taiwan has to face the reality of having China as their neighbor and should take China's threats seriously. Imagine if your neighbor kept threatening to break into your home and claim it as their own. Any sane person would prepare for that eventuality. They would install alarm systems, CCTV security cameras, and get a guard dog, etc. If you had a neighbor like China, it would be silly to not prepare for war. I think Taiwan can prepare itself for war with China, train its citizens to be prepared, and at the same time focus resources on social welfare and improving people's livelihoods. Both of these things can be done at the same time. In conclusion, the average person in Taiwan does not want war. However, when you have a neighbor like China, it would be very silly and very naive to not prepare for that eventuality.